SANTE is a top-heavy brawler tank who definitely skips leg day. We finally have another proper frontline fella in that top lane, and this video is hopefully going to teach you guys how to play him in around 5 minutes. SANTE is kind of like a tanky version of Yasuo with those Q stacks. He gets stuck into his enemies, he deals decent damage, and he absorbs a lot of damage at the same time. He has shields and CC and quite a bit of mobility for a tank too, so it's safe to say he can be a bit of a handful. His ultimate does cut his health and stats by a huge amount though, so this means you have to be pretty careful with its usage. It makes you deal more damage, but you'll be much easier to take down. SANTE also struggles in matchups where his enemies can absolutely destroy him with their true damage. As you're a tank, we recommend your runes follow the resolve tree, and Grasp is a great fit for the damage, sustain, and permanent health. After that, go for Shield Bash, Conditioning, and then Overgrowth or Unflinching depending on your preference. For your secondary runes, we advise Legend, Tenacity, and Last Stand, as this works really well alongside your ultimate. You want to max your Q first, as this is your bread and butter damaging ability, then take your E second for its improved shield, and finish off with your W. So before we get into the items, don't forget that in just a few weeks the pre-season changes will arrive, and that means tank items will be so much different to how they are now. This build will sort you out for the next few weeks, but check back on our website to see the updated version of SANTE's build once those pre-season changes go live. SANTE scales with resistances and health, so that means we're going to build him like a pure tank. Therefore, the two mythic options you have are Sunfire Aegis or Frostfire Gauntlet. After that, you want to go for those items like Frozen Heart and Force of Nature, but also a Gargoyle Stoneplate. This item works perfectly on this champion. Especially when you're ulting into enemies in teamfights, this item can really make the difference. If you need some more armor, grab yourself a Thornmail or a Rando and Zome, and if you need a bit more magic resist, you can also consider a Spirit Visage. If you feel like you really just want to get stuck into a side lane and split push, obviously you've got Hullbreaker. And Titanic Hydra is a bit of a different but high damage option to play with. Let's move on to matchups now. SANTE works best against lanes that can't really deal with his mobility. He can dodge or ignore their attempts at locking him down, and he can pretty much just dance around dealing damage and scaling into the mid game without too much risk. You can play pretty aggressively in these lanes, look to pick up early kills and snowball sooner rather than later. SANTE struggles though most in matchups where his enemies have constant early kill threat and damage, and especially so if they also have true damage. Make sure you're playing extra careful in these matchups and try to play around your jungler instead. SANTE has a really good amount of gank setup, especially so when he's level 6. Therefore, any high damage, aggressive early game junglers who can really make use of this to get ahead topside are the perfect match to play alongside him. So now let's quickly go over SANTE's abilities, starting off with his passive. SANTE's abilities mark his enemies hit for 4 seconds, and his basic attacks against them are empowered and deal max health damage. If SANTE has used his ultimate and got the all-out buff, they're going to deal true damage. SANTE's Q is kind of similar to Yasuo or Yone's Q in the way that it stacks up. He deals damage and slows briefly but heavily and gets a stack as long as he hits some kind of target. At 2 stacks, he fires a shockwave that pulls enemies towards him and stuns them. With the all-out ultimate buff, the cooldown is reduced by 1 second, but it no longer slows them. SANTE's W charges up like Aurelia's W, but instead it's a dash that's range, damage, and stun duration increases with the charge time. During the charge, he also gains damage reduction and displacement immunity. If you've gone all out, you don't stun or knock back anymore, but you absorb more damage, deal more damage, and the charge duration and dash speed are doubled. SANTE's E is a small dash and shield which has a longer range if he dashes to a teammate. With the all-out bonus, its dash speed and range are increased, and it can now go over walls. SANTE's ultimate is the fun part. He jumps onto an enemy, deals damage, locks them down, and blinks beyond them, carrying them along with him. If his enemy is near terrain, he'll carry them through the wall until they reach the other side, which makes some pretty crazy plays. After using his ultimate, SANTE goes all out for 20 seconds. His resistances are lowered to 65% though. His current health is reduced to 55% maximum health, and he can't go higher than that with any healing or regen. To offset this, he gains bonus AD, Omnivamp, and empowers his basic abilities as we've mentioned already. SANTE can recast his ultimate though just after using it to end these effects early, but any health lost from casting it is not restored when the effects end. Now during the early game, you want to bully your enemy with your Q and your auto attacks to make use of your passive. You can do this alongside farming waves as your Q stacks up when you hit minions too. Once your Q is stacked, get stuck in and look to fight your enemy. You want to try and time your W around major abilities in trades as well. The damage reduction will be so good against those high damaging abilities, or even the displacement immunity to prevent getting CC'd. You can use your E to dash and shield yourself, which will help you dodge incoming abilities and prevent some of the damage too. You can use this on minions to engage or escape, but also don't forget to use it on your teammates to give both of you the shield rather than just yourself. Perfect for when your jungler is coming top to help you. Once you get your ultimate, you're now much more threatening in 1v1s, but you also have now yet another mobility tool. This means you have even better chances of outplaying the jungler when they come and try and gank you. Just be careful using your ultimate though, as it does make you a lot squishier. In those big late game team fights, it's all about getting stuck in and being that real frontliner that your team needs you to be. You have a ton of disruption and CC, and you want to try and absorb as much damage as you can to protect your teammates. Talking of protecting your teammates though, SANTE's peel is exceptional. You have your W stun, your Q's knockbacks, your E's shields, and of course your ultimate's displacement too. all of which can really make the difference when helping your teammates stay alive. You can also engage fights for your team instead though with your crowd control, and dive in with your assassins and help them take down those enemy carries instead. As we mentioned earlier though, just be careful of your ultimate's usage, as it will make you a lot easier to take down. But if you want the extra benefits, the damage, and of course the actual CC part of it, then go nuts. We just advise not to use it too often at full health. Well, that's going to bring us to the end of our beginner's guide all about the newest champion, SANTE. Good luck and have fun.